And I want to start right where I begun this podcast, which is with the unintended consequences of the Lions-Rams deal. And I told you there were unintended consequences. We talked about one of those unintended consequences last week, or a matter of fact, last podcast. We talked about it when the trade first happened on Saturday night, and then we talked about it again on Monday. And that's, well, if you can get that for Matthew Stafford, what can you fetch for Deshaun Watson in a trade? And I've seen so many stories since we've had that discussion that have come out about, well, they should get this and they should get that, and it should start here. And I don't know where it's going to start or where it's going to end. I just know that the price obviously has to be elevated if the Texans at some point come around. And I told you, I still don't think that we're going to see him be traded. You know, I read a great article before we get into the shits on this gym dropping session. I read a great article by Andrew Brandt, and he's not my favorite guy. I love his dad way more than I love him. I'll say that. At times he can come off prickish, but I do know he knows football. I don't always agree with him, but he does know the game. And him being an ex-NFL executive and him being an ex-agent, he's got it from both sides, and he can kind of relate to a lot of things that happen, especially when it's contractual. So I read his article that he wrote the other day, and I found it fascinating because he talked about when the Wentz situation first happened that the Eagles weren't going to trade him. And he was one of the few guys that didn't think Wentz was going to get traded. I can say I thought Wentz was as good as gone. And I thought, you know what, it was for the best. And I didn't think it had anything to do with the contract. Like, his contract wasn't terrible. It wasn't great, especially for the Eagles, but it wasn't one of those contracts where you're like, oh my God, how are they going to get out of this thing? You know, if you're not getting the production and you think you can move on from them, then you do it. And I thought that's what they were going to do, and he didn't think they were going to move on, and he was right. Ultimately, it looks like Carson Wentz is going to stand pat in Philadelphia. They're going to try to make it work. But he's also been adamant that Deshaun Watson isn't getting traded. So have I. Now, you know, normally in these situations, when you make statements that way, it's because of the contract. But in this particular situation, it had nothing to do with the contract. It had everything to do with the caliber of player. You know, in the Carson Wentz situation, he had diminished. His value had diminished as a player in this league because he had a bad season, and it didn't look like this guy had the level of confidence that we knew he was capable of playing with. So he was at some point, he looked like a reduced item, you know. Hey, this thing's about to expire. So I'm going to put it up front. I'm going to put a little bit of a tag up there. This was $2.99. Now you can get it for $1.18 because we're trying to get rid of it. That's what Carson Wentz felt like going into the latter stages of the 2020 season. Like, he's damaged goods. Let's try to get something for him now while we can. Whereas Deshaun Watson, there's nothing damaged about him. The man just threw for 4,700 yards and led the league in passing. Now, the defense wasn't any good, but he was outstanding this past season, and he's only 25. So when you look at that, I've always told you guys, you can't get equal value when you trade a star player. You can't do it in the NBA. It's hard to do it in Major League Baseball, but at least you feel good about getting some young power arms or a 5-tool player out of somebody's minor league system, somebody's farm system. You feel good about that. May not see the dividends for 3-4 years down the road, but you feel good about that. In the NFL, it's tough. It's hard to really feel like you just got equal value for a superstar. We rarely see a superstar at this age get traded. We just don't. It's not something that we see happen very often. So Andrew Brandt essentially said he doesn't see Deshaun Watson getting traded. And he said the thing that he learned as a front office executive, and he was in Green Bay under Ron Wolf and company and Ted Thompson and all those guys. He talked about how one of the biggest lessons he learned is that nobody cares about a disgruntled player in, you know, March or April or February. Like, you can be disgruntled all you want. You're not playing football for the next 6-7 months. So, okay, fine. You cannot be happy. They don't have to do anything right now. If Deshaun Watson is steadfast on not playing and we get to September, now there's an issue. Now we need to actually start having a serious conversation about doing something about it. And I think that's the position Andrew Brandt is taking. I think the Texans kind of feel that way now. But if you're going to do something with Deshaun Watson, nobody wants you to wait until it's too late for him to get integrated into the new system, team, coaching staff, players, all of that good jazz. If you're going to do something, they want you to do it now. And so ultimately, if nothing happens by the draft, I think it's a safe assumption to make that nothing is going to happen. Because if something is going to take place, I feel like it needs to be on day one of the draft. By day one of the draft. Nothing has to take place right now. We can hear all the rumors that are being boundied about, and that's fine. But if something doesn't take place by day one of the draft, because he's not a day 2 or day 3 of the draft guy. He's a day 1 blockbuster deal type of guy. So if something doesn't transpire by day 1 of the draft, then I don't think anything is going to happen, personally. So we'll see what happens. But he's adamant that he doesn't think anything's going to happen with Deshaun Watson. Now, I find that interesting, but we'll see. But back to my unintended consequences of this deal that we talked about. I told you that with Stafford fetching 2 ones and a 3, let's not forget about their 3rd round pick. That's important too. With Stafford, but the ones are all anybody wants to talk about. With Stafford fetching that for the Detroit Lions at 33 years old, having not really won anything of note in this league. You know, Matthew Stafford right now is a bona fide loser, is what he is. Let's call it what it is, a spade. Matthew Stafford is one of the best losers in the league right now. And I'm not talking about best at losing. I'm talking about he's the best player that just seems to find a way to lose all the damn time. We don't have many of those in the league. Generally, you might not win a Super Bowl, might not win a bunch of playoff games, but if you're a really good quarterback, you generally find a way to will your team to victories. He hasn't been able to do that. He's not an elevate your team type of guy, but he's not going to have to do that in LA. They've got a team ready to win now. That's why they traded what they traded to get him. Forget about all of that, though. The unintended consequences of Deshaun Watson's deal potentially in value going up. Well, obviously, he's not the only one that now has seemingly limitless potential, in terms of value. Like, I'm reading this 3-way Raiders deal article, and I'm like, let's see what the hell these Raiders are talking about. Because, first of all, it's nonsense. Everybody's got a Deshaun Watson scenario now. Every team's coming out of the woodworks. And, and look, reporters are looking for stories, and it's an easy sell right now if you've got a Deshaun Watson trade proposal. I'll click on that. You'll click on that. It's great clickbait right now. So even if that's not a true story, even if the Raiders aren't even seriously considering that, it's a great story to put out there, because at this point, any trade rumor involving any quarterback, with the way this offseason is shaping up, it's easy fodder. I mean, it is hook, line, and sinker, a trap for anybody to get caught in. So I get it. But how long have the Raiders been trying to get out of the Derek Carr business? It seems like for 3 years now running, maybe even 4. They've been trying to get out of the Derek Carr business. And I'm like, first of all, can y'all leave Derek alone? Derek ain't done nothing to nobody, and them boys always trying to got him. I'm like, look, Derek ain't done nothing to nobody, man. Leave this man alone. He's happy in Vegas. Why y'all always trying to uproot this man? So, I remember before the season started, Mike Mayock came out and said, Derek Carr is the unquestioned leader of this team. He's grabbed this thing by the horns. He's poised to have a big-time 2020 season, and everybody's ready to follow him. And what did Derek Carr do? In a massive 2020 season. He was outstanding this year. Threw a bunch of touchdown passes, not a lot of interceptions. He was the reason that they were even being considered for the playoffs late in the season. At one point, I think they were 7-3, maybe 7-4, 6-3, whatever it was. They were good. They looked like they were poised to make the postseason. And then the defense fell the hell apart. And it's not like the defense was ever any good, because they really weren't. You know, they were the only team in the regular season to beat Kansas City when Kansas City legitimately was trying. Yeah, they lost the Week 17 matchup. They rested everybody. The Raiders were the only team to beat them in the regular season, but they had to outscore them. That was a 40-32 game. The defense didn't help. The Raiders did that on offense. Derek Carr was outstanding this year. Yet, all these rumors about Derek Carr being shifted and ousted and whisked away from the Los Angeles Raiders. Or Las Vegas, excuse me, Raiders. Like, leave Derek Carr alone. Okay? That's number one. Number two is Derek Carr, for as good as he was this year, and he's got a very affordable contract. Derek Carr right now, his cap number over the next 2 seasons is 19.7 and 19.8. When you add in, workout bonuses and things of that nature. But cap hit wise, base salary wise, 19.5 in 2021, 19.7 in 2022. That's it. You're talking about a shade under $40 million for Derek Carr. It's a great contract, honestly. But if I'm the Raiders, I'm not even interested in trading him, number one. He's not the problem. I've stated this about the Raiders. Can you win with Derek Carr? You're damn right you can win with Derek Carr. You can win with Derek Carr. He's not the problem. Their defense is atrocious. We watched that Thursday night game against the Chargers. It was one of the worst defensive performances I've seen of any defense this season. And we've watched them throw up all over themselves multiple times defensively, like the Dolphins game. Like, their defense is a joke. It has nothing to do with Derek Carr. But let's get one thing straight. Derek Carr is not worth 2 first-round picks. Okay, can we stop the madness? Can we stop with the bullshit and the foolishness and the tomfoolery? Can we stop? Everybody's not worth 2 first-round picks now because the Lions got Matthew Stafford. So the Raiders are like, okay, we can help everybody out here. We can solve this whole Deshaun Watson thing. And I'm not saying this is what the Raiders actually said. I'm just talking about the article. Raiders might not have anything to do with this. But, this is how the article made it seem. This is how the article kind of shaped and phrased this thing. The Raiders were going to do everybody a favor. Hey, look, okay, we got it. We got the answer to this Deshaun Watson problem. Let us handle it. Okay, what you can do is you give us, it felt like they were some kind of investor. And you're like, are you running a pyramid scheme on me right now? Is that what you're trying to do? Okay, look, you give me 2 first-round picks. I'll give you Derek Carr, and then I'll give those 2 first-round picks, and then throw in 2 of my own first-round picks. So that's a total of 4 first-round picks, and we'll get Deshaun Watson. Everybody's happy. Everybody wins. Okay? So you give me 2 first-round picks. I give you Derek Carr. That's not a fair trade. Okay? So don't make it seem like you're doing me a favor here. That's not a fair trade. Oh, don't worry about it. Just give me 2 first-rounders. I'll give you Derek Carr. We'll call it even. You're not doing me a favor. All right, so now they got all these first-round picks, and they're like, we'll take all of those first-round picks that you just gave us, and then we'll toss in the 2 that we still have, and we'll get Deshaun Watson, and everybody's happy. The Texans get all the first-round picks that they can ask for, a bunch of second-rounders too, and we get Deshaun Watson, you get Derek Carr, everybody's happy. No, Vegas, that's not how this goes. That's not how any of this goes. Let's stop the conversation right here with Derek Carr fetching 2 first-round picks. Derek Carr is not worthy of 2 first. If you're not, first of all, if you're not a top 10 quarterback, you shouldn't be commanding anything more than 1 first-round pick, if that at all. So let's calm down a second. Matthew Stafford, I told you where he lied in the NFL pantheon in terms of ranking quarterbacks. He was 7th. I didn't want to give up 2 first-round picks. I still thought it was a steep price to pay, but okay. The Rams, they clearly don't give a shit about first-round picks. They've already established that. We already know that. We've talked about that. So they didn't mind. And again, The second one didn't have anything to do with Matthew Stafford. The second first-round pick, and we've talked about this already, that was strictly for the Lions' troubles. Hey, man, we really appreciate you taking Jared Goff off our hands. That's what the second first-round pick was for. Had nothing to do with Matthew Stafford's own merit. That was strictly for them taking Jared Goff's contract off their hands. That's what the second first-round pick was about. But I digress. People seem to forget that. This is a good contract that Derek Carr has. He'll be a free agent after 2 seasons. So after the 2022 season, going into the 2023 offseason, that's a brand new, he'll be looking for a brand new deal. I assume that he should be getting an extension before then, whether it be with the Raiders or they finally do something with him. But he's not worth 2 first-round picks, man. Come on now, stop. Derek Carr is not worth 2 first-round picks. There aren't many quarterbacks in this league that are worth 2 first-round picks. But if you're going to have that conversation, you better be young and you better be in the top 10 in this league at the quarterback position. And Derek Carr is not a top 10 quarterback. Derek Carr at times plays like a top 10 quarterback. And I think there is a level of disrespect that Derek Carr has shown in this league that I think is unfair to him. However, he's not a top 10 quarterback. And he's not a guy that should be fetching 2 first-round picks. All right, this thing is getting out of control. Then I read another article. I don't necessarily disagree with this, but Adam Schefter pretty much said that any deal involving Sam Darnold, the Jets feel like they should be able to get a late first-round pick for him. I kind of agree with that. I told you, I wouldn't be shocked if the Jets got a first-round pick for him, I think the right amount of compensation for Sam Darnold is a second-round pick, personally. But if somebody gave up the 27th pick in the draft, I wouldn't bat an eye at that. I really wouldn't say, oh, man, they overpaid because we don't know if Sam Darnold can do it or not. Like, I know a lot of people have given up on him. He's got talent. I don't think the Jets situation was a good one for him. He gets in the right situation with the right coaching staff, with a staff that believes in him, a system that fits him, with some talent around him, because he really never had talent with the Jets, and maybe he might actually be somebody's franchise quarterback. Maybe. And I wouldn't mind giving up a first-round pick, if I was one of those teams like Indianapolis, per se. I wouldn't mind giving up a first-rounder to find out. If you believe in Frank Reich's ability to get the most out of a young quarterback, and you believe in your staff and their ability to get the most out of players, then I wouldn't mind, giving up a late first-round pick for a guy like Sam Darnold and seeing what I could see in a 1-year tryout, essentially. But I tell you, like I've said this a million times, this whole offseason is going to be wild, but we cannot overreact to some of the things that we've seen transpire. This Stafford deal has sent shockwaves through the league. Obviously, there are ripple effects that we're seeing, and when rumors like the one with Derek Carr, I'm like, what in the Derek Carr is going on right now? 2 first-round picks for Derek Carr? You got to be out of your damn mind.